Hello and welcome to PRN Test Drive. If this is the first time you're joining us, I highly recommend you take a look at the first video we did on my 2013 Mercedes-Benz C 4matic. One of the things that we like to do here on Test Drive is buy cars like this and tell you how they are on a long-term basis. I've now had this car for about 18 months now. I bought it back in January of 2022, and here we are in July of 2023. I've put about 10,000 kilometers on this car in that time, and I want to talk about how much it has cost me in that time and why you might still want to consider a W204 Mercedes-Benz C class. Now, if you're not familiar with this particular model, it comes with a 3.5 liter V6 engine producing about 248 horsepower and 251 pound-feet of torque. It's actually the detuned version of the C350 4matic, so you're getting the same engine, just a little bit less power out of it, but still gets the job done. Now, the main reason I purchased this vehicle was because I traded in my Ford Focus Electric. I needed something with four-wheel drive, and I needed something to get me from Quebec to Ontario during our move in the summer of 2022. I hadn't really planned on keeping this car long-term, and after today, you might see if I'm going to be keeping it any longer than this, because even though the repairs haven't been too bad, the future repairs just might not be worth it. So what have I done in the last 18 months? Well, I have spent $3,583.80 in maintenance and service on this vehicle. That includes 3 oil changes, 3 tire changes, as I've gone from winters to summers to winters to summers. I also had a new OEM battery installed because mine had gotten to the point where it wasn't doing the brake hold anymore. I had 2 safety inspections, one when I first purchased the vehicle in Quebec just to see if it was mechanically sound, and then a second one when I moved here to Ontario in order to register it in this province. And then there were some things that I wasn't expecting to be doing on this. For example, I've put in new aftermarket rear brake discs and pads, as those were no longer usable anymore. We also did a front brake service on them, as the pads and rotors were still pretty good on the front. And then the front spring on the driver's side ended up breaking. Now, I'm under the impression that somebody had lowered the front end of this car, as the springs were not aftermarket, so I ended up getting new front struts for the vehicle. So both sides were done to OEM spec, not OEM parts though. I also did an AC service to the vehicle back in February, as I noticed that the AC light was flashing when it would come on. And over the last 6 months, it's been working, but not so much. Especially on a hot day like today, I was starting to notice that the AC would run for a while and then would just kind of taper off, which will bring us to the next part. But I want to talk a little bit about how this car has been, because I've really enjoyed driving it. I know 10,000 kilometers is not a lot. Most people are doing about 20,000 kilometers in a year. So in 1.5 years, I have done about half of what you should be doing in 1 year. So I don't drive this car much, basically back and forth to work. Sometimes we'll take it on a little trip. I did go up north, sort of northwestern Ontario a couple weeks ago, just around Canada Day, and it was good, aside from the air conditioning problem, but everything else about the car has been good. There's some small things that I've gotten kind of annoyed about when it comes to it. The driver's seat is still ripped. It's a common problem with these vehicles, especially with the synthetic leather. Just not great quality. And it's not even the leather that's ripped, it's the stitching that holds the leather together. My driver's side mirror broke. Actually, when I replaced the battery, I probably over voltaged it, and it actually broke the little mechanism that keeps it in place. So I had to disconnect the power folding mirror portion on the driver's side. And then my sunroof. If you open it up, it doesn't quite go back in properly. I have to hold the actual, little flap that comes up to prevent the wind from rushing in. I have to push that down in order for the sunroof to close. So I really don't use that. And I have noticed that there is a little bit of water that leaks in if I go through an automatic car wash. I think I figured out the problem. It's just one of the drainage inlets that wasn't quite positioned properly, but it also could be the actual sunroof. If the drains from this are clogged, which goes down the A-pillars here, that could cause some problems. So for the most part, not too bad. I hear a lot that these are very reliable cars, and I would agree 100%. Mechanically speaking, the car is in great shape. There's a small oil leak up at the front. Aside from that, though, there hasn't been any other problems. But I want to take it on a road test to tell you about what the next problem is with it and why this might be the last video I'm doing on my 2013 Mercedes-Benz C 4matic. Well, we are off in my Mercedes C 4matic. And you might be wondering why I'm so sweaty. Well, I'll tell you, I'm always sweaty. That's nothing new for me, but that's the main problem with the car right now. is the air conditioning doesn't work. Now, as I mentioned during our little discussion about what I've done to the car, the AC did need to be serviced back in February. They put some dye in it at the shop to see where the leak was coming from, but even after a couple months, AC was still working. Obviously, it was the middle of winter. I wasn't using it except just to sort of clear out the condensation on the inside of the vehicle. So it wasn't until essentially the last month or so that I started to really notice that there wasn't any AC coming out, which is why I brought it in at the beginning of this week and found out that quite a bit of stuff needs to be replaced. Now, to be fair, the quote that I got for it is the worst case scenario. It's replacing the compressor and the condenser, as well as there's a hose and a belt that needs to be done. So essentially the entire AC system should be replaced. Now, we quoted it out from Mercedes-Benz. Doing OEM parts, we're looking at, with labor, which I get a discount on, $3,900 Canadian. Oh my gosh. Now, I'm not sponsored by rockauto.com, but I took a look at rockauto.com. I can get all the same stuff that I need, obviously not OEM, but I can get all the parts that I should need for the AC service, kind of above and beyond what I really need, really, for about $900 shipped to my door, including taxes, and then let's say about another $700 or so in labor. So I could get it fixed for about $1,800, let's say $2,000 max, which would bring things up quite a bit, because I've spent $3,558 whatever I said. Works out to be about $199 a month to keep this vehicle on the road. Now again, because we do tire rotations here and stuff, and it's something that I would do myself if I had tires and rims, not just tires, you know, that cost could have gone down. I also could have saved money not buying an OEM battery from Mercedes-Benz. I could have saved some money not doing 2 safety inspections. I really only needed to do 1 when I brought the vehicle over here to Ontario. So, you know, these costs are sort of above and beyond typical. So I'd say, you know, maybe around $3,000 during that time is about fair. So still, you know, about $2,000 a year to maintain this vehicle is not too bad. Then comes the AC system. And that's my problem, because this car is really good. It's done everything I've asked it to do and more. You know, we're at 230,000 kilometers now, which is only about 10,000 kilometers since I bought it, but it's still been working out very well for me, which is why I have to make a decision. Do I keep this car? Do I spend at least $2,000 on it to get the air conditioning system working, or do I look for something else? Because, you know, the W204 C-Class is a pretty reliable vehicle overall. I mean, you can go with a lot worse choices out there when it comes to any sort of luxury vehicle. These ones are pretty darn good, and there's, you know, there are a few quirks here and there when it comes to certain tech, but because mine's pretty lightly optioned, there's really nothing on it. There's not a whole lot to go wrong. Mechanically speaking, it's in good shape. It's just AC is a bit of a bummer. And here, where it says it's 26 degrees with humidity, it's more like 34, it kind of sucks. And then it doubly sucks when you're a big guy like me. I feel the heat a whole lot more than most people. So it's really not fun driving around right now. I had hoped to keep the windows open just to air things out, but I want to make sure you can hear me on the video. So I do have the air system running. Obviously there's no air conditioning. The system is completely bone dry, so it will not engage, and it's starting to get pretty sweaty in here. I'm sure you can see it on the camera. So that is my predicament. I need to decide whether or not this car is worth spending another $2,000 in repairs on after spending, you know, quite a bit of money. It cost me about $900 or so to do the struts in the front, and that wasn't too bad. The brake service was, you know, about $600-700, and at least I know that they're done properly. Apparently the brakes that were on the back were pretty poor quality, so at least I've got some better quality materials on there now. But aside from that, you know, it's just a bummer not having air conditioning. You know, I had planned to get some of this stuff fixed up. I actually didn't incorporate it into my costs because, again, it's not really a maintenance thing, but I spent about $320 to get all the dents removed out of this vehicle. Aside from the small little, like, there's a scratch in the passenger door and a really poorly done job on some touch-up on the front passenger fender, the body on this car is in really good shape. I'd replace the mirror if I could, and I'd fix the driver's seat if I could. And even that's kind of tough, because I reached out to a company here in London that's supposed to specialize in doing upholstery repair. They can't do it on a Mercedes, at least not these ones, just because they're kind of difficult to get parts for, and then to get the actual, you know, look and feel of the material right. So I called them like 4 months ago, 3 months ago at least, haven't heard back. So we're gonna see. But right now, as I'm driving along, 28 degrees on the outside, I am cooking in here. Oh, and that's one other thing too. It took me a year and a half to figure out the eco button on my car here. I always thought it had something to do with the HVAC. It's actually an auto stop start system. It does not work. It's never worked because the little eco light on my drive cluster screen is supposed to be green when it's ready to go. It's always been yellow, which means there's a fault. I don't know if there's something wrong with some component in the system, or maybe the previous owner just removed the fuse and that's just how it works now. I don't really mind, but it's one thing that took me a little while to figure out when it came to this car. So aside from that though, you know, it's gonna be decision time. What to do with this car? Is it worth holding on to? Is it worth fixing the air conditioning? I'm gonna have to think about it, because if I don't plan on keeping it, this is the last time I will be driving this car. You are sharing that experience with me, because I'm going to go park this car back where I got it from, and then that might be it. I might not see it again. But regardless of what happens, I hope that you have enjoyed this little video here, this update. I've been saying I've been wanting to do it for quite some time now. I wanted to give you a cost update when it comes to this vehicle and what to expect at about 230,000 kilometers. So if you have any comments about this video or the car itself, please leave a comment below. I do try to get back to everybody as fast as I can. Obviously, I am juggling quite a few things these days, but I do try to get back to everybody. If you haven't done so, please give a thumbs up and a like to this video, as I do appreciate it. And you can continue to watch all the coverage that we're doing here. James over in Montreal doing all of our new car stuff. I'm out here doing some of our fun used car stuff, classic stuff that I am still trying to track down. And if you've got something that you'd like to feature, let me know. But until next time, thanks for watching and take care.